ancient megalithic structures are found all over the world. This has long been known to everyone who once saw them, let it be in pictures on the web or with your own eyes, and there are a lot of such megaliths that have common features even in Europe and Asia, even in the Americas. However, until now, historical science presents them as erected in a certain era by the people who lived there. Incas in South America, Ainu in Japan, Minoans in Crete, Ajiviks in India, etc. Hi friend, you're on the KirTop channel. Oldest shark attack victim. Sharks do not attack people as often as shown in the films, but sometimes it does happen. And most importantly, albeit occasionally, but sharks always attack people. This is confirmed by the bones of 3,000 years ago. The skeleton was found at the Takama Shell excavation site near the inland sea of Japan in the early 20th century. But then the researchers failed to explain the bone injuries. And these bones, Takama 24, were rediscovered by archaeologists from the University of Oxford, Great Britain, who study cruelty in prehistoric Japan. In total, scientists have counted on the bones at least 790 deep marks with jagged edges. Most of them were on the arms, legs, and chest. The skeleton was missing a left hand and right leg. At the same time, the left leg was placed in the grave over the body, but in the opposite direction, with a foot to the body. At the same time, there are no traces of healing on the traces. The number of injuries was staggering, but the man was buried in the cemetery. At that time, the locals were still using stone tools. The footprints on the bones did not resemble the marks of stone tools or the teeth marks of local predators and scavengers. Unfortunately, the tracks are superimposed on each other, so it is impossible to determine the exact shape of the jaw, and then the specific type of shark. Scientists have studied the skeleton itself. This was a young man who lived between 1310–1010 BC. Judging by the fact that the shark's teeth left marks on the bones, the arteries were also severed. The man died very quickly. Mysterious family grave. A group of Siberian archaeologists have discovered an unusual family burial in Caucasia, which is about 2,500 years old. Presumably, a husband and wife with a newborn child and an elderly maid were buried in the grave. As determined by experts, the burial belongs to the Tagar culture and can shed light on the Scythian civilization. At the time of death, the husband and wife were about 30 years old and their maid 60. The remains of the baby were scattered throughout the grave, most likely due to the activities of rodents. Archaeologists also suggest that both spouses were warriors. The same weapon was found in their hands. This surprised the specialists. In the burials of the same time in these places, female warriors were buried with bows and arrows, long-range weapons. However, in this grave, the woman carried an axe and a short sword, which are suitable for close combat. The man was found to have 2 axes and 2 bronze daggers. Experts attribute the burial to the Tagar culture, an archaeological culture of the Bronze Age and Iron Age, 8th–3rd centuries BC. According to archaeologists, the find may shed light on the life of the ancient Scythian civilization that existed 2,200 years ago and is suitable for presentation in a museum. In addition to skeletons, rare objects of the Tagar culture were found in the grave: knives, mirrors, a horny comb. 110 graves in the Nile Delta. The Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities told about a new find made at the archaeological site of Kamal Kulgan in Dakalia province, about 150 kilometers northeast of Cairo. Archaeologists have unearthed 110 tombs. Some have preserved human remains. 68 tombs of this number belong to the pre-dynastic period of the civilization of Lower Egypt, which spans 6,000–3,150 BC. These are oval-shaped pits carved into the sandstone. The people buried in them were located mainly on the left side with bent knees. Their head was facing west. The burial of a child in a ceramic vessel was also found here. The 37 rectangular tombs date from the ancient era known as the Second Intermediate Period, 1782–1570 BC, when the Hyksos ruled ancient Egypt. The depth of the burial pits is 20-85 centimeters, and the bodies in them were laid in an extended position, face up, but also in a westerly direction. Children who died during this period were buried in coffins or clay vessels. And 5 more oval tombs are evidence of the culture of Nigeta III, 3200-3000 BC. Pottery, amulets, jewelry, and other interesting artifacts were found in these and other graves. Little-known Inca fortress in Peru. In Peru, next to the southern plateau of the Sacred Valley, near the Four Lakes region, is the Pucara Inca fortress. The complex is located in the province of Acomar, Cusco. In the Quechua language, Pucara means Wekra is the horn and Pucara is equivalent of strings, fortress, that is, fortress of the horn. Looking at this place, the name of the fortress is more than eloquent. But the shepherds of the communities of Aco, south of the city of Cusco, also know him as Lama Pucara. These are not horns, they assure, but the ears of a llama, which is vary of the presence of strangers. Despite the almost inaccessible location of the fortress at the top of the peak above the abysses that overlook the Apurimac River Canyon and are at an altitude of more than 4,000 meters above sea level, at least 4 ancient roads lead to this place. The best preserved stone walls with fine carvings, stairs, terraces, and rooms in the best classical Inca style. Unfortunately, the remoteness of this magnificent architectural complex makes it less famous than other monuments such as Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, and others. The fortress itself is located at an altitude of 4,300 meters above sea level. It rises about 8 walled terraces and stone stairs. The architectural complex offers a magnificent view of the Apurimac River Valley. Pucara is located in the distance, and to get to it, you need to spend 5-6 hours on the road, half of them on foot. The architecture of Pucara combines masonry and natural formations, and in this way resembles Machu Picchu. The fortress itself consists of 2 groups of architectural structures. The Pucara fortress has a certain stealthiness, and in addition to its defensive function, it may have been a refuge and an astronomical observatory. There is also a version that this architectural complex was associated with rituals for the development of agricultural activities and astronomical observations. This version is supported by the fact that the structures of this place are oriented towards the sunrise. Ship of Cheops. The Great Pyramid of Cheops has always attracted the attention of not only the entire scientific world, but also ordinary people. After all, to see with your own eyes one of the greatest mysteries of the planet is something. It hides many secrets and mysteries that have no end and edge. Every scientist dreams of making a unique discovery about it. Sometimes this takes not days and months, but years. Here is a proof of this. A group of archaeologists consisting of Egyptian-Japanese archaeologists announced the completion of excavations at the walls of the Pyramid of Cheops, which lasted for 15 years. They found the remains of a burial ship, and for so many years, they have been removing them from the ground. The work was very painstaking, but it was worth it. In total, archaeologists were able to find and extract from the earth about 1,750 wooden parts of the ship. As they were taken out, they were immediately transported to the museum, where a whole team of specialists worked on them, which reconstructed and preserved the parts of the ship. It turns out that the work of archaeologists and museum specialists was carried out in parallel. Museum specialists received about 1,300 items for work. They planned to study them in as much detail as possible and then try to reassemble the burial ship that has decayed over the millennia. For this purpose, about 100 Japanese experts are involved, and they use high-tech equipment in their work, scientists pin great hopes on their help. Scientists said that when they assemble the ship, it will be exhibited in the new museum building, which is currently still under construction for everyone to see. Mini Terracotta Army. Inside the 2,100-year-old pit, Chinese archaeologists have uncovered a miniature army, elaborate chariots, watchtowers, and tiny statues of cavalrymen, infantrymen, and musicians. The find looks like a miniature version of the Terracotta Army, a life-size collection of chariots and sculptures of soldiers, horses, artists, and civilian officials, which was created for Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. Based on the design of the artifacts found, archaeologists believe they were made about 2,100 years ago, or about a century after the Terracotta Army. The southern part of the pit is filled with cavalry and chariot formations, as well as models of watchtowers 140 centimeters high. In the center of the pit, about 300 infantrymen stand in a square formation, and in the northern part of the pit, there is a model of a theater pavilion with small sculptures of musicians. Based on the date, size, and location of the pit, archaeologists believe that this army may have been built for Li Huang, Prince of Qi, part of China, who was the son of Emperor Wu Di, reigned 141–87 BC. Han lived in Linz, a Chinese city near an open pit, and died in 110 BC. The ancient texts say that Li Huang became Prince of Qi very young and unfortunately died early without leaving any successor. Shortly before Hang's death, according to the works of the ancient historian Bang Gu, a comet appeared in the sky over China. If the pit and its ceramic army were to protect Li Huang or some other noble person in the afterlife, then the grave must be somewhere nearby, although the tomb could have been destroyed. Some of the rulers of the Han Dynasty continued to build pits with armies of ceramic soldiers for their burials, but the soldiers were already much smaller. Stele of Naramsina. In Akkad, there was a king whose name was Naram-Sin, which in translation from the Akkadian language means favorite Sina. In local mythology, Sin was the god of the moon. Naram-Sin ruled around 2237–2200 BC. The activities of the king are known from literary monuments, which were written in the Sumerian, Hittite, and Akkadian languages. There are also preserved inscriptions of Naram-Sin himself, for example in the Temple of Lagash. There are sources that tell of the defeats of Naram-Sin. So, he sent people 3 times against the troops of Manda, who were located in the area of Lake Urmia. He was perplexed and depressed by several defeats, but as a result, he was still able to defeat the enemy. During the reign of Naram-Sin, the Akkadian kingdom was able to achieve the greatest power. The king ruled over all the occupied territories with the help of sons and officials whom he appointed to the post of Anzi. His daughters were priestesses, so they could also influence political life. The end of the reign of Naram-Sin is associated with the invasion of the mountain tribes of the Gadians. This led to the fact that famine, epidemics, multiple deaths among the population began in the kingdom. The victorious stele of King Naram-Sin has a spiral structure of figures on a plane. In this, it differs significantly from the Sumerian technique of creating a composition. Military operations in the mountains were chosen for the plot. The stele itself resembles the top of a mountain, tapering towards the top. The creation consists of 3 compositional lines. They run almost parallel from bottom to top. This made it possible to show the path of the army of Naram-Sin, his ascent to the top of the mountain. The king's warriors ascend the parallel slopes. This practically does not happen in life. Usually people climb winded spiral roads. Also, the place of transition from slope to slope is not indicated. House of the Dragon. The House of the Dragon is located in the south of the island of Euboea, located off the eastern coast of mainland Greece. There are 25 of them in total. The houses themselves are rectangular structures made of huge megalithic limestone blocks, one above the other without any mortar. The gaps between the blocks are filled with other smaller stones, and the roof is covered with similarly large stone slabs with a small gap for lighting. They're called Houses of Dragons because local legend attributes to their creators unknown superhuman abilities. Because it takes into account the size of the stone blocks used in the construction process, it is believed that ordinary people could not build them. The mysterious dragon houses on Mount Ochi are located at an altitude of 1,386 meters and have an average size of 12.7 by 7.7 meters with a door in the center of a southern wall, which is 2 meters high and 1 meter wide, protruding over her. There are even small windows on the sides of the door. The walls have an average thickness of 1.4 meters, suitable for supporting a heavy stone roof, and the interior rises to an average height of about 2.4 meters. The building area is 48 square meters and the entire floor is covered with stone slabs. According to experts, the 3 dragon houses in Palilaka are very similar in size to the houses of Mount Ochi, but their walls are thinner, on average only 1.1 meter. The The stone blocks used are also smaller, and the style of construction is rougher, less complex, and possibly more ancient. The houses were first described in the late 18th century by the British geologist John Hawkins, who climbed Mount Achi on October 21, 1797. However, there is still no exact dating of these buildings. Some scholars believe that they can be dated back to the 7th century BC, as they are forerunners of the late Greek temples. Others consider them defensive structures of the Hellenistic period, 3rd–4th century BC. However, experts cannot come to a consensus regarding their dating, and the lack of quarries from where the blocks were mined makes it difficult for them to work. The only strange thing is that despite their supermassive size and complex structural elements, there is absolutely no mention of these buildings in ancient sources. Therefore, all available information is obtained from the legends and folklore of the area where they were built, as well as information from researchers who visited these structures at a later time. In general, everything is as usual. No one knows anything, but scientists do not believe local legends because they tell about builders with superhuman abilities. But it seems to me that they were built by an older, highly developed civilization and left such traces of its existence in Greece. And it is quite possible that these are just houses and not observatories at all. Rate the video with your like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to press the bell to be the first to know when new videos are released. Thanks for your views. Bye everyone!